Hello there, what is going on everyone? Today I'm going to be teaching you how to play Star Wars Unlimited. This brand new game from Fantasy Flight is just coming out this week, so if you are interested in learning a quick how to play video, this is the right place. I'd love for you guys to stick around and subscribe. We are doing that $25 Amazon gift card giveaway. You just have to be a subscriber and leave a comment on this or one of my videos if you want a chance to enter to win that. So without all the further ado, let's go ahead and jump right into how to play the game. So before we can play the game, I want to discuss the anatomy of a card. We're going to be looking at bases and leaders. You're going to have one base and one leader in addition to a 50 card deck. These aren't included in the 50 cards. A base is going to have an aspect, which is its colored symbol here. This one is aggression, as well as a 30 health total over here, although there are some bases that will deviate from that. For the most part, bases give you 30 health. The goal of the game is to reduce your opponent's health of their base to 0. Once that is defeated, then you lose and your opponent wins, or vice versa. So you also have a leader here. I have Luke Skywalker, and Luke Skywalker is going to have his name. He's going to have 2 aspect symbols. Leaders will have 2. This one is vigilance and heroism. And he is going to have some keywords over here: force and rebel, a picture, an epic action, and a regular action. So these are actions that we're going to be able to take during the game. And an epic action is a once per game ability that we can use. Leaders are going to be double-sided, and when we do their epic action, they will take the battlefield in unit form, and they're going to change and be usually very, very powerful characters. However, once they are defeated, they will revert back into their leader card into this horizontal format, and we will put a little X token or something over there to indicate that they've already used their epic action. Again, that's a once per game ability. It's a fun thing to be able to use, but that is going to do it for our leader card and our base. Now, our 50 card deck is going to be constructed of various different types of cards, mostly ranging from units and events and some upgrades, but however, probably be mostly units. Now, these cards are going to have a slightly different anatomy, so we'll talk about them a little bit here. With Zeb Aurelius, we're going to have his name at the top. It's going to say unit and ground up here. If he were a space unit, it would say space above unit. He is going to cost 5 resources to cast, and he also is going to have the aspect symbol of aggression and heroism. If I have aggression and heroism, I won't have to pay any extra, but if I do not have aggression and heroism, and again, those are going to be symbols that are on between our base and our leader card. If I have symbols on him that are what we call out of aspect, then I would have to pay 2 extra resources for every symbol that is not represented. That includes if somebody has double of a single color and I only have 1, I would still have to pay for every symbol that's not included. Now, Zeb has 5 power and 5 health, so he is going to deal 5 when he's attacking, and he's going to have 5 hit points, so he can take up to 5 damage. Damage is persistent. When there's attacking, he will take tokens equal to how much damage he has, and those do not go away unless he dies or is healed, and there are only a few things that can actually heal units in the game. So for the most part, damage is persistent. He's going to have a little symbol here next to his name indicating that he is unique. I can only have 1 Zeb Aurelius out in play, but if I had, for example, this volunteer soldier that has no aspect, this is more of a generic, a no-named trooper, I can have up to 3 of those. You can only have 3 of any given card in your deck when doing deck construction. I'll have other keywords down here, and as well as any special effects, and these are usually going to describe themselves, what they do when somebody attacks, when somebody plays, when something happens, do this. There are events. Events, once played, go into a discard pile, so they're kind of one-time use cards. They also have a cost, as well as certain keywords, and they'll say what they do, plus their art. And then there are upgrades here, and now upgrades will usually play underneath a unit, sort of like this. A lot of times they will have, like for example, +2/+2, so that'll increase the attack and the health of a unit, and sometimes they give additional bonuses. But they will also say upgrade over here. Events will say event. If it's a special type of event, it will have extra keywords on it. These are the basic anatomy of most of these cards, but the important part to take away is if it's a unit and what arena it goes in, whether it's ground or space, and where the cost is, and if there are any additional costs. Now, at the start of the game, my base is going to go here, my leader is going to go here, and I'm going to put my deck right here. I am using a Game Genic play mat for this, so we will shuffle our decks. You know, of course, cut your opponent's deck, and they'll give them the option to cut your deck, and you're going to draw 6 cards. You do have the option to mulligan if you do not like the cards that you are drawn. I will draw my 6 cards. If I don't have anything I can play, or if I don't like what I'm seeing, I can just take all of these cards and mulligan them. I can reshuffle and draw 6 more cards, and then I am stuck with my cards, so I will be stuck with whatever I draw. So I've got my 6 cards here, and the first thing I'm going to do, and both players are going to do this, is you're going to select 2 cards from your initial 6 cards, and you're going to commit them as resources. We're going to do this by flipping them face down in the resources area, which is going to be behind your leader and starting base. Now, this is a tough choice, but I'm going to go ahead and try to focus on cards that aren't going to be helpful to me on the first few turns. So, for example, this Cargo Juggernaut costs 6. That'll be a later play, so I could hold on to it for later, or I could commit it and use it right now. And I'll take this Bright Hope. I could take that. It's a ship. Space units are important, but it's my only space unit, and maybe I want to hold on to that, so I'll get rid of Crabbok instead, which is an event, which isn't going to help me right now. It's a little more situational, so I'll commit those 2, and those are going to be my 2 resources. We will exhaust resources to pay the costs for things when it is our turn by turning them sideways like this, and then, of course, at the end of the round, we will eventually get our exhausted cards back, and we can ready them like so. Now, the basic structure of the first round, you'll randomly determine who goes first. Let's say I'm going first. I can then take 1 action and then yield to my opponent. They will take 1 action. We will go back and forth. You can pass, and then you can also claim the initiative counter. This is an initiative counter. This means you'll go first on the following turn. So whoever wraps up their turn first basically can claim the initiative counter. That means you aren't doing anything else. You can't play any more cards, and your opponent can take all the rest of their actions in a row without interruption. So I might, for example, commit 2 resources and play this Partisan Insurgent. That is going to be a ground unit, and I will put them on one side. That's going to be now the ground arena, and then the space arena will be on the other side. However, they will come into play exhausted, which means they cannot be used to attack or to be exhausted for different actions that they might have. Some units will have an action, but they're going to come into play exhausted, and then my opponent will have the option to use an action. Now, there are also actions on your leader. Let's talk about those. Leaders are going to have a type of action on them that they can use to help out your army. In the case of Luke Skywalker, I can pay 1 resource and exhaust him to give a shield token to a rebel unit that I've played this round, or I should say rather a heroism aspect unit that I've played this round. So if I had the resource to spend, I could exhaust him and put a shield token on another unit. Now, it would have to be a unit that has the heroism aspect. So in this case, the Partisan Insurgent doesn't have that aspect, so he wouldn't be eligible. But if I had a rebel unit, most rebel units tend to have that. Not all leaders will have a cost. Some leaders, like Sabine Wren here, for example, is simply just to exhaust her, and she deals a damage to each base. Then there's, not all leaders are good either. Darth Vader pays 1. If it also has a condition, if you played a villainy card, you can deal a damage to a unit and a damage to a base. So they have varying degrees. Every leader is different, and they have all different types of special actions that they can play. Now, assume my opponent has played a similar play and played a 2-cost unit. I could then claim the objective, the initiative counter, and then I'll be done. If my opponent passes, we will complete the action phase, and then we'll go into the regroup phase, where I will then draw 2 cards. I have the option to commit 1 more as a resource, and it can be any card from my hand. At this point, I might say, you know what, now I actually don't want space, so I'll commit that card now, and then I'll have 3, and then I can go ahead and ready all of my exhausted cards, anything that I use, and now we'll start the next round. Both players will do that, and we'll start the next round, and we'll continue in this format until someone's base is destroyed. So let's talk about some of the other different actions that you can take on your turn, because you don't always have to summon a ground unit. I could, for example, summon a space unit. If my opponent had space units out over here and was attacking my base, I might want to summon my own space unit. I could do that by paying 2 and bringing out a space unit. Then my opponent would take an action, and they might attack, and they would exhaust a readied creature and attack. Now, when they're attacking, they can attack one of my creatures directly, or they can attack my base directly. They have the choice. The only reason they wouldn't have a choice is if I had a unit out that had the keyword Sentinel. That sort of acts like a tank who's taunting, and they must attack a unit with Sentinel if possible. That's the only really defense against your base you have. There can be the same situation in space. You can have units in the space side that also have Sentinel. You cannot attack from ground to space or from space to ground. There are actually very, very few cards that deal any kind of cross-arena conversion. For the most part, these are treated as 2 separate routes to your opponent's base. So if my opponent attacks my base, they will deal 3 damage with that particular creature because he's got an attack value of 3. I'll put 3 damage counters on my base. Then it will go back to me. I might also attack my opponent's base, putting a damage counter on them. They might attack my creature directly, which deals 3 damage to my creature, but since my creature has a toughness value of 4, they will still be okay, at least for now. And then, of course, my opponent might attack one more time with their little V-wing over here and putting another damage on my base. Play will continue back and forth. Each one of those is an action, so we go back and forth. I want to talk about epic actions a little bit. I talked about this briefly before. Most epic actions will say if you control X number of resources. Now, I have 6 resources out right now. This is fast forwarded until later in the game. I don't have to have them all readied. I just have to control 6 resources. If I do, I get to use Luke Skywalker's epic action, which is to flip him over and ready him into the ground arena. So he will flip over and he will ready. That means he comes into play, basically, think untapped for common card game slang. He comes in ready. This is one of the few opportunities for a creature to enter the game on the readied side. Leaders all come into play. Whenever you do their epic action and they flip over, they're going to come into play readied like so. That counts as an action. Then my opponent can do something. It's usually a good idea to do this a little bit later in the round, because if Luke Skywalker were to take 7 damage and die, or be defeated but through some other method, he goes then back to being my leader again, and he will now no longer be able to use his epic action. My opponent could do the same thing. In this case, my opponent's running Boba Fett, and he could turn Boba Fett over into Boba's 4/7 version also, and also cause all kinds of problems for me. And that's the epic actions. Now, when I'm building a deck, I am still allowed to include cards that have an aspect that doesn't match my leader or base. So in this case, Gideon Hask is here with the villainy aspect. Since I do not have villainy, I can still include him in the deck and I can still play him, but instead of 5, I do have vigilance, but I don't have villainy. So he's going to cost me 2 more. For that one symbol that I don't have. If I didn't have vigilance, which is the blue symbol, then he would cost me 4 more for that one and the villainy. But in this case, Gideon would actually cost me 7. So if I had 7, I could still come out and play him. It's sometimes advisable to include some cards that are outside of your current aspect, because it makes it less predictable. Your opponent might not guess that you have cards that can do some of the things that villainy can do, or command, or cunning, or different aspects that I don't have represented in my deck. So it kind of is a way to play a bluffing game and to do that. But if I also decide that that's too expensive for me, I always have the option during the regroup phase of committing him as a resource, and then he'll be out of my hair, and I don't have to worry about it anymore. So the game offers a little bit of flexibility when it comes to that. So over here I have my discard pile. If I ever am required to draw and I run out of cards, so for example I have to draw 2 cards, I draw 1 and there's nothing else. Anytime I have to draw a card and I can no longer draw, I will then put 3 damage on my base. So running out of cards is a thing, although it doesn't seem to happen very often. It is certainly a possibility, so you won't want to run out of cards. And that is Star Wars Unlimited in a nutshell. The basic rules I find are very simple. However, the strategies can be somewhat in depth. There's definitely a balancing act between attacking your opponent's base and destroying your opponent's units before they can attack your base. If your opponent starts coming out with very high attack units, you may want to destroy them before they put too much damage on your base. There is a little bit of a seesaw effect that can happen, and you can have a little bit of a runaway leader if they get very, very big units and you don't have answers for them. And one of the ways to do that is to bring out units of your own to distract your opponent from attacking your base, and hopefully they go for your units or things with Sentinel. There are a couple of other types of tokens that I want to talk about, and that'll conclude the how to play. The two basic tokens I want to talk about are shield tokens and experience tokens. Luke Skywalker's a great example to talk about shield tokens since he gives out shield tokens. A lot of the locations have tokens on the opposite sides of them. So if you look at some of these bases and you flip them over, they're going to double as tokens, which are helpful reminders until you get some fancier tokens if you desire. So let's talk about the shield token first. You can use these because there's one of these in every booster. I could put a shield token on this A-Wing if Luke had put it on there. And what this does is it prevents all damage that would come to the A-Wing the first time, or the next time it receives damage, and then the shield token comes away. So it's a complete damage shield. Whether it's hit for 1 damage or 10 damage, it's going to consume the shield, and the shield goes away. A unit can have multiple shield tokens. However, it's not the most common thing in the world for them to have more than one, since Luke specifically can only give them out if they came into play this turn. The other type of token is an experience token. There are a couple of cards that give out experience tokens, and quite simply put, an experience token is just a +1/+1 token that increases their attack and their health by 1 point per experience token. There are lots of other keywords and special effects that you can discover as you play the game. Most of that helper text is written on the cards, although it'll also be written in your little how to play book for things, the exact wording on cards like that have things like ambush or sentinel. You'll discover those as you play. All right, so that's just a quick look at how to play Star Wars Unlimited. Hopefully you found this video helpful. If you do, I'd love it if you'd like the video, share the video, leave a comment. Don't forget to enter to win that giveaway. And check the links in the video description below. We have Discord, social media links, all kinds of cool stuff like that. I'd love for you to check it all out. And hopefully you have a fantastic day. I want to thank you guys so much for watching. Big thanks to my patrons. You guys are amazing and help make this whole channel possible. I will talk to you later. May the Force be with you. Live long and prosper. Be excellent to each other. The spice must flow, and always wash your socks.